This is going to be for Season 3, Episode 6 of Shield Hero. I'm going to pick up pretty much right where I left off at the beginning of the Ren Naofumi fight and that whole thing. And you can see the artwork here where Ren has his cursed outfit, Naofumi's defending, and he has Raft-chan on his back. But in the show, it's just these two at first. And Ren tries this move called Hide Sword where he's casting like low-level illusion magic. And Naofumi uses Hate Reaction, which he learned training with Raptalia will break concealment for low-level illusion magic. And also he says that Ren's armor looks a lot shabbier than the last time he saw him. Like it's kind of coming apart and his pupils are dilated and stuff. So just like the show, Ren's really going after him. And this is where you can see he tries to cast one of his cursed attacks where he's saying, let this foolish sinner pay for his transgressions with an execution by beheading. And he goes on and on. And it's funny because after he casts this guillotine spell, Naofumi says that he stopped it with his hand, but he can see blood. And he's disappointed that Ren had actually broken through his defenses without using the training that Naofumi had been trying to get them to use. And then Ren actually flees. And it's kind of funny because Naofumi's like bitching in his own head that guillotine skill hurt because of the curse effects that he was dealing with now. But their whole group came over and then Ren teleported away. And Naofumi thinks he's a coward. And he figured out that he's head of the bandits. And a random bandit shows up because they found their hideout, but obviously Ren got away. So they got rid of the bandits and their hideout, just not Ren. But the random bandit shows up and he realizes who it is. And Naofumi says, all right, Philo, eat. And the guy says he surrenders. And then Claire starts bitching at Naofumi that he's on familiar terms with the bandit. And that they're kind of stuck in this relationship because the first time was when Naofumi was still outcast by the Melromark government. So he just stole their stuff and then had to let him go. So they talked to this guy and realized the last time that they ran into each other, which was pretty recently, Naofumi had turned them in, but their transport got attacked by a bandit, and it was Ren. So then he's really pissed off, and he asked if Ren had a skanky redhead chick with him, because he's referring to bitch. And Raptalia sighs at him, but also agrees. But we find out that Ren has just been by himself the whole time. And Naofumi kind of pities him because he's just alone no matter what, because he's so arrogant, essentially. And then this is where Naofumi starts putting together that the cursed weapons, or the cursed series of weapons, is corresponding with the 7 deadly sins, or at least something similar. And we find out that Ren had essentially been bullying the bandits to doing what he said and told them that he would kill them if they didn't. And the bandit says he's actually glad that he's getting captured again. And they get into a pretty detailed conversation here where they talk about the 8 cardinal sins of this world and how similar they are to the 7 deadly sins of Naofumi's. And they're trying to figure out if it's only gluttony because he's trying to devour experience points. And Naofumi compares him to a solo PvP player killer type because of how Ren and all those guys viewed this as a video game. And they kind of spend a lot of time debating which ones they think Ren has. They think pride is more likely for Itsuki, the bow hero, and he feels that they can narrow it down to gluttony, greed, pride, or vainglory. And vainglory is supposed to be one of their 8 cardinal sins, but they don't really know. But Naofumi admits that he doesn't really have the exact idea of what triggers a curse series to show up to begin with. And they also suspect that there's someone watching them or using some kind of concealment magic. And Naofumi says sign, and she teleports in because she leaves a pin on his coat all the time, or his jacket. That way she can trace him and hear him. And then if he asks for her to show up, she can teleport to his exact location. So she's kind of always watching over him. And it's kind of funny because when Sign shows up, she has 2 familiars that she made because she can use the sewing vassal weapon essentially. And one of them is a life-size replica of Raft-chan, and one is based on Sedina's Theranthrope form, which is the orca or the killer whale. And Naofumi kind of hints that he wants the Raft-chan one to sleep with, and Raptalia gets all mad at him. But the familiar actually can talk to them. And Naofumi gets all worked up and he's like, Raft-chan just squealing Rafu is what makes her cute. You completely don't understand what makes her cute at all. And then Sign says she'll change it so that it doesn't talk. But the reason that he called her is because he wants her to block off Ren's ability to portal away, otherwise chasing him is pointless. And he says don't kill him no matter what, and he's so weak that he can't compare to us. And Sign's like shocked, and they kind of all pity him again. And then this is when those guys show up again, except I'm pretty sure the last time it was only the one guy, and now it's both. And Naofumi's like shocked that they're alive. And it's interesting because Atla and Foal are there, and Foal wants to attack, and Atla is immediately like, no, we'll just get in the way, so we need to stay back. So she has like a really strong ability to tell other people's strength. Atla and Foal get sent off to protect the bandits because they don't want them to get caught in the collateral. And it's Raftalia, Philo, Rafchan, Eclair, Rishia, and Sign with Naofumi for this fight. And Naofumi actually manages to have a conversation with these guys, and we get pretty much what amounts to a bunch of exposition, because all of the villains in this show are deliberately stupid and over the top, but you don't find out why till much, much later on. And the guy explains to them that if they kill the heroes and their world gets destroyed, that the vassal weapon holders from the other worlds that destroyed their worlds will get huge bonuses on their weapons and a ton of experience. And they also tell them that their world is going to be the only one to survive. So Naofumi doesn't know any of this. And they go back and forth, and these two guys are kind of overpowering Naofumi's group with their weapons, and they use a move like explosive shot and that kind of thing. And they're fighting, and these guys are kind of talking trash the whole time. Philo kicks one of them and says it feels like kicking the ocean, and the guy says it's absolute shield, so it'll absorb all of their attacks. And they're just kind of talking shit in general. And Naofumi just keeps thinking that these guys are a pain in the ass. Like Eclair stabs the guy through the shoulder, but then Naofumi says the guy's shoulder begins to waver like a mirage, and he just steps to the side. He doesn't know if that's some side effect of their resurrectability. And then Philo hits one of the guys in the face with her Morning Star. Doesn't really do a ton. Naofumi buffs them all and then tells them to use their strongest attack. And they kind of work, but not really. And the guy tries to use translocation, which is teleporting away. But then Sign uses her skill seal, which is her thread, to prevent people from teleporting. So she prevents them from leaving the fight. Eventually they get Sign's threat off and they do escape. And Naofumi and his whole group are pretty pissed off. And he's actually a little bit worried now because he's like, these are like companions of the heroes from another world. And they're that strong. And it seems like they're immortal. And Naofumi also is thinking to himself that it seems like they don't really feel pain. And they're not actually in a fight to the death. They're just kind of screwing around. So they're all kind of talking. Atla and Foal come back and have their little back and forth about how they need to get a lot stronger. And then Naofumi says that as they're talking, it feels like something goes speeding past them. And it's just one problem after another. So after all that stuff that got left out, this is where we run into Motoyasu fighting Ren. And then we find out that Motoyasu is using a skill called Temptation to prevent Ren from teleporting. And that's because obviously Motoyasu's curse weapon, because you saw it glowing in this episode, is Lust. And we get a really funny thing in here where Naofumi is a little bit affected by the temptation because it makes everyone who's near him be tempted by him. And Naofumi says, huh? What was that? Motoyasu is suddenly looking really handsome. He was surrounded by brightly glittering strands of gold on a background of pink. Oh lordy, what a hunk. I'd be happy to bend over for a man that handsome. And then he says on a cold day in hell. And it's funny because Raftalia is not affected by it at all because she has resistance to illusion type magic. And Naofumi is relieved by it. And then Rishia is like, I'm in love with Mr. Itsuki, I can't. So it was like affecting her, but she wasn't like going crazy. And Philo says that she's fine, but Naofumi is thinking to himself that it's because Rafchan sat on her shoulder and he had seen that she had been looking at him with bloodshot eyes and was about to run at him earlier. And it seems like Sign is okay. And we get some petty arguing. The show is pretty good about all this stuff, where Ren's calling them a bunch of weaklings who have to gang up on him. And Naofumi's like, say whatever you want, you friendless loser. So Naofumi's pissed off at him, so he's also being petty. Because Ren had tried to sneak up on Naofumi, he's like, I'm not going to forget about that. And also it's very cowardly. So Ren tries to start off with Rishia, and she throws her knife into a nearby tree and then uses the rope to get out of the way. And then throws like a bunch of iron spikes at Ren while he's doing that, while she's escaping. And Naofumi's just thinking the whole time that he's taking this geek performance to the next level by shouting all kinds of generic anime lines. And this is where that he puts together it's greed, because it's the act of getting stronger that he's pursuing, not some kind of object. And this is also where he concludes that the hero has to essentially be completely broken psychologically, but suicide isn't acceptable for the heroes, so they end up with this curse weapon that just drives them, based on some kind of primal instinct. And the anime did a good job of this too, where he summons all the gold and it turns into this really big gold tacky statue. And pretty much what you'll see is in the anime, Raftalia takes out the statue. Naofumi lets the statue hit his shield to protect everybody, and he admits that it's the equivalent of his blood sacrifice, so it was a decent attack, and he would have preferred to dodge normally. The anime did a pretty good job of all the fighting between these two, so I'm not going to get into all the details, but I will say it kind of sucks that they wasted a really good payoff. They skipped so much of book 6 in season 2, because the first episode, if they had covered everything, would have been a part where they were training and then they all quit and run away. And during that training, Ren and Eclair duel, and Ren is doing all this running because they agreed to not use any abilities, so it's just sword technique. And then he ends up using an ability so that he forfeits but doesn't actually get beat. And it's all super cringy. And even throughout this one, he's saying all this cringy stuff, like when Eclair finally hits him and gets through his cursed armor, he's like, to think that one of your attacks could actually touch me. Not too shabby. I guess you're worthy of seeing what it looks like when I get serious. And Naofumi's like, what the hell is he talking about? He's been struggling the entire time and he's getting beat. So he's like the stereotypical cringe, like almost like Kirito type character that you see in a lot of anime, which I think is part of what makes his arc really good in the books, because you get to see how cringy he is the whole time. He's like kind of an edgelord. And then after Eclair whips his ass right here and in the training, he becomes super humble, obviously, because he's completely been broken down. And this is also where Naofumi thinks he might have awakened gluttony also, on top of greed, because he keeps using the word devour. And it is a little bit funny that Eclair keeps telling Ren his attacks are full of holes. And if it had been Naofumi, there wouldn't be any holes like that. And Naofumi's like, stop comparing us, you're going to make him attack me instead. And here's just the artwork of Eclair using her last skill, which is the one that finally puts Ren away. And Naofumi's like, I didn't want to compliment her too directly. He says, I didn't realize you were also skilled at psychological attacks. And this is when the two guys show up again and go after Ren on the ground. And Eclair says she's going to use a technique, but after that she won't be able to fight at all to protect Ren. And then Motoyasu jumps in and helps. And Naofumi's worried because he thinks he's too weak. And this is kind of funny in a dark way. When Motoyasu spears the first guy, it's Naofumi says that he's swinging the spear around like it was a toy with the large man skewered on the end. And then when he fights the second guy, it's pretty much like the anime, where he swings through the guy's weapon and his neck. And Naofumi's like shocked that he actually used the power-ups and he's so much stronger. And he has a curse weapon on top of it. And this is pretty funny. After Motoyasu kills those guys, I don't remember this being in the show, he just kind of strolls off whistling. And Naofumi's like, what are you doing? And he says the hero should always make his exit upon saving the day. Farewell, father. And then he goes and steals Philo's carriage. And pulling the carriage are 3 Philo-leals, a red one, green one, and blue one, which is pretty funny. And here, Raft-chan comes back because she had been with Philo, who's off chasing her carriage, and she points, and now Naofumi can see the 2 souls of the guys that they just defeated their physical bodies of. And Sign says that they'll just keep resurrecting if you don't kill their souls, and she doesn't know a way to do it. Naofumi tells Raft-chan to use her spirit blades, and she goes and cuts through their souls, which actually then dissipate and vanish. So now they're dead. And Sign is pretty impressed and surprised by this. And then Raft-chan says it left a bad taste in her mouth having to take their lives like that. This epilogue will probably be the beginning of episode 7. I don't think it was in the end credits of episode 6, so I'm just going to read it. It's only a little bit anyway. And Ren wakes up back in their village, and Naofumi explains to him what's going on, and Ren just says that he screwed up. Bitch wasn't with him. He didn't know where she was because she took him to another town to train with a guy and add a member to their party. And when he woke up the next morning, all his shit was gone, just like Naofumi, except for his sword. And then she left him a letter saying that he's useless and she's taking everything and leaving. And she says she's grateful for helping her escape the other 2, but afraid that he's not her type. And maybe she'd be willing to love him if he ever got strong enough to beat the shield hero. Of course, that's never going to happen. Ha ha ha. And then he felt like he had everything taken from him, so he would take from other people. So then he got a mask and went and did his bandit thing. And he says that he hopes Naofumi will forgive him for everything, even if it sounds disingenuous. Naofumi says it's fine, he had to protect him anyway, so just don't keep making the same mistakes and focus on getting stronger. And Naofumi's kind of surprised that Ren, who is an egomaniac, is kind of bowing and begging for forgiveness from him. And then Ren's super pissed off about the whole thing with Bitch and letting her escape. And Ren kind of lists off his dead companions and says that he doesn't want their deaths to be for nothing. So he's sort of vowing to move forward from there. And then he talks to Eclair and thanks her, and he asks her to call him by his given name and stop calling him Sword Hero. And Naofumi says there was bromance in the air as Ren and Eclair firmly shook hands. And that's the end of this one. Here's a little bit of art. You can see dejected Ren with Eclair and Naofumi and Raphtalia. That's book 11. They covered it in 6 episodes. They obviously skipped quite a bit. And I'll see you for episode 7. Like and subscribe and all that shit. See ya. Thanks.